Hello there, Wizard of Arc here. Today we're going to discuss the three most popular notation systems to figure out which one is best. Which notation is better? Western Standard, Tab, or MIDI roll that you can use in your DAW? Let's look at each one and see what the advantages and disadvantages are. First, Western Standard, the little black dots. Pros. Easy to jot down ideas, even if you don't have a computer. You can just need lined paper. At a glance, I can see where the pulse is, and it's also easy to see where the notes fit within the pulse. I also can recognize basic interval shapes. I also can know the letter name of a note almost immediately. I can recognize inversions readily. It mostly shows the sound that's expected. You can hand it to any different instrumentalist if they're trained, and they'll be able to make the sounds that you want. It might be the best notation for singing, although solfege or saregama might actually be a contender, and it's definitely really good for piano. Cons. Unless one is playing piano and one's a trained singer in the classical sense, there's no indication of how to play that note on the instrument. You cannot readily see from just the notes, just the dots, what quality an interval has. When composing, it's a bit more painful if one wants to adjust the timing of the notes. If you want to make a suspension or stretch, or make augmentation or diminution, if you just want to stretch or squish the time, you basically have to just rewrite what you did, just erase and write it all over again. Tablature, or tab, also known as the digits. Pros. This is the best way to communicate how to play something on a stringed and fretted instrument. Take your finger, put it on that string at this fret. Boom. That's what you do. Tells you right there. There's no confusion. There's no better way to do that. According to Brendan Acker, the lute player and classical guitar player, tablature actually predates the invention of Western Standard notation. They used it for the lute. If you come up with something cool on your guitar or any other fretted stringed instrument, you could quickly and simply just write it down on a piece of paper. It's super easy to write, even better than Western Standard. You just scribbles quick lines, write some numbers on there, and you've got it. The cons. This notation is of zero help to musicians and singers who do not play the guitar or any fretted stringed instrument. And if they do play a fretted stringed instrument, if their tuning is different, it might not work. It might, it won't match. They'll have to retune their instrument, so you would have to add indication of the tuning. Tab, by itself, does not provide rhythmic information. Without that, you can't figure out how to play something you haven't heard before. This can be addressed if you add the stems and flags from Western Standard. So that's my preference, is to have a hybrid. Intervals between the strings are hard to know unless you know the tuning well and you have the muscle memory to recognize that. And when you're changing the timing, depending if you've added the rhythm notation, then it's going to be kind of, you would have to rewrite it, redo it. But if you haven't, there's nothing to change. MIDI roll. Pros. I find this to be the easiest for composing. You just draw the notes. You want them to go up, you draw it up, you draw it down, you just put things where you want them and adjust them to your taste. And the adjustment is, that's the beauty of it. You can just click and drag up and down, and especially in timing, you just literally drag it to the sides and to make them wider and more narrow. And you could just actually move the notes left to right or up and down, So it's very dynamic, and You don't have to redraw things from scratch. You can just adjust until it's perfect, until it fits what you want. You can make a suspension by just dragging the first note out a little longer. And since it's semitone oriented, it makes it very easy to see the quality of an interval. Like a major second and a minor second look very different in the DAW, in the MIDI roll. Major and minor thirds look different. Cons. You need a computer really to take advantage of the dynamic and easy editing this has. You can use graph paper if you want to, do the semitone stuff like in the MIDI roll. But it's a bit, you don't get to enjoy it, the flexibility, without having it on the computer in a DAW. And it's also very hard to have someone perform from it. It's easy to have the computer perform from it, but if you hand that to somebody, it makes it very hard. The rhythms aren't like very clear as far as where the pulse is and the subdivisions. And you can't tell like at a glance what octave a note is in. You have to like hover over with your mouse to see. Conclusion. If you're a guitarist or bassist or any fretted stringed instrument, I recommend using all three. Use tab to capture your string fretted instrument ideas and to share with your string fretted friends. And then use MIDI roll for composing and arranging and altering. And then use Western Standard to hand to the other non-fretted stringed instrument players and singers. The trick now is how do you convert between them? To do this, we'll use some transformers, like 6 little magic devices that you can use like formulas or images or charts that you can go from one to another. To go from tab to MIDI, this is a little kind of more numbery oriented, but you start with a tuning matrix and use that number for each string. The line from your tab will refer to that number. And then you add the fret number to the number that's in your matrix. And voila, you have your MIDI number. MIDI is all about numbers. So your piano roll, you can see the numbers in there. 60 is middle C for you to remember. To go from MIDI to standard notation, you can use this little bit of standard notation here with the MIDI numbers next to each note. And that can go back between standard and into MIDI as well. Going from standard to tab, you can use these charts that I have, where you can find your note in these charts. You'll actually have a set of possible string fret combinations for each standard note, standard notation note, and then you'll have to pick from that collection whichever is the most easiest to play. And if you don't play guitar, then you'll have to chat with your guitar friends and see what they think is best. To go from tab to standard, it's a lot easier. There's 2 ways you can get that way. You can do through the MIDI route by finding your number and then using the MIDI to standard notation chart, or you can use the other charts I showed you and see where that strings and the frets, and those charts should help with that. From standard to MIDI, you can use this chart. And from MIDI to tab, it's a little math number, but instead of MIDI note will actually correspond to a set of possible tabs. It's, string, fret ideas. And then you talk to your guitar player friends to figure out which combination is easiest to play. I hope this has been helpful to you. And do let me know what you think. If you have better ideas, better charts, please share. Also like, subscribe, and click that notification bell. Slán!